Hi, my name is John Gosman and shalom to you. A virus will never be the greatest threat to mankind. But what has been and will be the greatest threat is the nature of the beast. And the nature of the beast comes from the political and religious leaders. Politics and religion are the feet of the beast. The word did not become flesh, but what does become flesh is the nature of the beast. The only three fundamental characteristics of a political and religious leader is that they are liars, they are after your money, and they want to control you. Politicians promise to eradicate AIDS. Religious leaders promise to pray for the end of AIDS. In 2020, we find that there are over 35 million people with AIDS. For the last 30 years, approximately 1 million people a year are dying of AIDS. It promises from politicians and religious leaders are lies. Prayers do not work. Statistically, yes, you will find 1 in 100,000, 1 in a million of people that have a serious illness make a dramatic recovery. And the pastors would claim that to be a miracle, which then brainwashes you to believe in miracles, to believe in prayer, to believe in the religious leader. But it's a lie. Look at the facts of the statistics and not the lies of politicians and religious leaders. Wake up to that fact. For 2 months, political and religious leaders are saying, don't panic. This coronavirus is just another flu, a little bit worse than the normal, and it will just pass over like a normal flu. Yet today, you find that there's over 200 million people under quarantine. Every day, more and more people have been put into quarantine by the government. Many like myself under quarantine. I don't trust the politician. And I don't trust the religious leaders. The nature of the beast is the most destructive in South Africa, in all the countries. All these countries are busy doing something for their people, or trying to. But yet in South Africa, the politicians are still saying, don't panic, wash your hands. Very soon, we're going to see people dying in the streets in Africa. And the politicians are still going to say, don't panic. They lie us. It's very frustrating for me to listen to people that have been brainwashed by politicians and religious leaders. And they do very stupid things like comparing the facts of cancer and other deaths to the flu and common virus, or today the coronavirus. You have to compare apples to apples. And this coronavirus is something that mankind has never ever dealt with. It's not behaving in a natural way as we've seen with other viruses and flus and things like that. I believe it's a bioweapon. Currently, there's over 65% of the world's countries that are affected by this virus. I believe by the end of the month, it will be 100%. But yet, there are still people that believe that they can go to gym and they'll be safe. It's beyond crazy. I call it the nature of the beast. So they will go and get infected. They will infect other people. If they're brainwashed to believe they're safe. I believe people like that should be given a free trip to Wuhan, and they can go and prance around on the streets of Wuhan. I believe that this coronavirus is safe, so yeah, let them have a nice free trip. Because that's ridiculous. Absolute crazy. And I don't mean what I'm saying. But that's the truth. The nature of the beast is putting people at risk of illness and death. After 2 months of lies from China, this coronavirus is now in the Western world. And the statistics that are coming out are shocking. So, the true situation of this coronavirus is now being exposed to the world. Yesterday, for the first time, I heard a politician that actually said something that was the truth. The governor of Ohio said that they've projected that currently they've got 100,000 people affected. They also project that that figure will double in 6 days. Now, I'm going to give you the facts. I'm comparing statistics of the coronavirus to statistics of the coronavirus. And you'll see that this governor is correct. The projection of this virus, new cases and deaths, are not what you think it is. So let's have a look at it. Looking at the top 10 corona-affected countries over a 2-week period, we find that the new cases have increased by 61%. Affected countries are at 68%. I projected before the end of March, every single country will be affected by the corona. SARS only affected 28% of the world's countries. Take note that the European countries are way above the average. When we look at the deaths over the same period, we find that at 67%, with the European countries once again way above the average. The authorities are claiming that the death rate is 3.4%. When you compare these stats, you need to decide on whether you will believe the politically controlled authority and have the nature of the beast, or to believe the facts. Comparing a 24-hour period, we find that the average new cases are 9%. You'll find that the trend continues. The European countries are way above the average. What I want you to note is that China remains way below the averages, yet we've not been given any reason of why. The same goes for South Korea. Very quickly, as Italy and Iran moved South Korea from 2nd to 4th place. The same trend is seen in the same period. The death rate is at 11%. European countries are way above the average. China and South Korea have the highest cases, yet they're way below the average. I project that South Korea would be out of the top 10 before the end of March and replaced by a European country. Projected new cases every 14 days at 61%. There will be over 3 million people infected within 84 days. Considering that the European countries are the most accurate and the rest of the world has provided minimal information, you can decide whether to multiply that 3 million by 2, 3, or even 10. Likewise, with an average death rate of 67%,
30,000
there will be
over 30,000 deaths.
You can multiply that with whatever you believe will be closest to the truth. The new cases average per day of 9% over 2 weeks will give you over 400,000 new cases. 20 weeks will give you 4 million. The deaths average per day of 11% over 2 weeks will give you 14,000 deaths. Over 20 weeks, that'll be 140,000 deaths. This graph gives us a much truer reflection of what's going on. The top 10 countries are providing statistics which are much closer to the truth, which we don't see in the top 20 and 30 affected countries. But that is changing. And it's changing very rapidly. Soon the European stats are going to be 90% in the top 10 and 70% in the top 20 affected countries. And not long after that, China's lies will be exposed. Comparing the European countries, the top 30 countries, to China, we find that although these European countries have less than half the population of China, in 24 hours, new cases went from 17 to 19%. And deaths went from 25 to 33%. Are these figures I'm giving you facts? No, they're not. I believe that the figures given by the European countries are closer to the truth. But we've got these lies from China and the rest of the countries in Southeast Asia and the rest of the world that's not giving any information that can give you any statistical trend. But over the last 2 weeks is the first time that I could compare some statistics to see what is going on. The fact I am giving you is the trend. And I've shown you that trend, and I'm going to keep track of it and just project of what's going to happen. Can that trend change? Yes. People are saying there's going to be a cure. When the weather gets hotter, it's going to go away. It's just going to disappear as quick as it appeared. Keep washing your hands and whatever else they tell you. So we don't know when that trend's going to change. And I can tell you definitely that that trend's not going to change if you pray, because prayers are a lie. So yeah. So keep track of the trend, and you'll actually realize, if you don't realize by now, how serious this virus is at the moment. And worst of all, there's nothing yet to say when it's going to stop, or if it's going to stop. All you can do is look after yourself, boost your immune system, listen to the medical advice, make sure that you don't expose yourself to the possibility of getting the virus. And if you do, just make sure that you've got enough medication. What is clear is that the infrastructure and every single country's health setup is not enough. It can't manage the amount of people that are getting ill. They are advising everybody to stay at home and look after yourself. So yeah, it's every man for himself, and hopefully you don't get it. And if you do, hopefully you'll be fine. But this virus has been specifically designed to kill those over the age of 60 with heart disease, diabetes, and high blood pressure. So that's a high risk area. Take extra precautions if you fall into that category. Above all, the most important thing to do is to wake up from politicians and religious leaders. The sooner you get out from under their control, the better for you and the better for mankind. This virus is going to disappear at some stage. You're still going to be around, but are you still going to be controlled by politicians and religious leaders? Now that's the most important decision that you need to make in your life, because I was brainwashed. And I woke up from the fact that politics and religion are the 2 feet of the beast. And if you're in any of those, you become the flesh of the beast. Don't adopt the nature of the beast. Get away from it. Shalom.